Hello everyone, welcome to episode 34. What happened last time on Twitch Tales? Let me do you a little bit of a recap while I fix my camera. Apis stuck around Shadridge one last day, having a little bit of downtime, learning some herbalism from the local herbalist Edith, as well as getting the notes and anything that Kathleen needed to pass on to the authorities of Fondirg, any messages that she wished to send. Then finally we set off early the next day with some rations and some things, some supplies for the journey. We got on Paul's old horse, whom we are calling Mr. Ed. And we rode south. We rode through the deadwood, and we came out the other side near the what's known as the Lannis Woods and the Schafguschel Forest, and we rode south and kept going. And we passed by the Lannis Woods and the area where the manticore is the word, where the manticore was. We kept going south even further, and then we got into an area of the Lannis Woods where we were attracted. Our attention was attracted by some movement in the trees, and looking up, we saw a squirrel-like creature, but it was oddly reptilian in nature. And this reptilian squirrel had green scales, and when we tried to animal handling it and failed, all we actually managed to achieve is incurring the wrath of the other dragon squirrels that we weren't showering in attention, and so they took that wrath out on us by a big poisonous breath, and we realized, oh boy, these guys are half dragons, the offspring of some sort of a green dragon. And so we got into a fight, not only with some half-dragon squirrels, but some half-dragon giant rats as well. And then, thankfully, coming through that fight with a barely living horse, we managed to saddle up that horse once more with some dead giant rat as evidence and as out of interesting specimens to be studied. And we set off south. We rode south even further, and eventually, just as it was just after dark, we arrived at the outskirts of Fondirg. That's where we are beginning the day. Now, I don't remember. I forgot to check the end of the last episode, so I think we've used up both of those inspirations and lucky horseshoes. I also believe that we have no spell slots left. Somebody tell me. Oh yeah, the horse was brought back to full health with our Cure Wounds spell slot. So we used all of our spells. The horse is on full health. We have some health. I don't remember. But I'll just tell you that there's always a chance that you'll get into a fight or something, but I don't anticipate you getting into a fight as you enter Fondirg immediately. So it doesn't really matter how many hit points we've got so far. If it comes up, it comes up. So we ride up to a town that we've been to before. It's a lot larger than Shadridge. Shadridge has a population of about 100, whereas Fondirg has a population of about 10 times that. Fondirg is a walled city. It has a wooden palisade around the town. I'm probably going to accidentally call it a city a few times, but you should remember it's a town of about 1,000 people. It has many different amenities in it, so there are a few different bakeries, a few different blacksmiths, a few different taverns and inns. There's stables on either end of the city. There is a headquarters to most of the gods of the primary gods of the pantheon. And in my world, the headquarters of gods tend to be places of utility as well as worship. So, for instance, the god to what's her name? Serana, I think, something like that from memory. Serani, I think it is. The temple to the goddess of cleanliness and purity is the bathhouse, and the temple to the god of justice is also the jail cell, and so forth. The temple to the god of balance is the courtroom, and things that make sense in that way. The god of plants and forests and food, organic foodstuffs is the greenhouse, and so forth. And they have pretty much a town of this size is almost guaranteed to have one of each of those things, including a small menagerie on the outskirts of town to the south, dedicated to the god Ultimus, the god of beasts and hunting. So as we arrive at the town, it has a gate that is closed. It's not a drawbridge because there's no moat around this thing. It's not big enough or involved in enough conflicts that it needed that level of fortification. But the gates are closed, and there is a knight on duty that you can see on top of the gate that sees us coming and calls out to us for our business as we approach on horseback just after dark. What do we say? You can see that this guy has a blue cape on, signifying that he is of badger rank. What do you guys call out to this guy on gate duty for the night? We have news from the knights from Shadridge, you say. Came to deliver some letters. Says, welcome news indeed. We haven't heard from Shadridge in some weeks. Please, come on in. And he gives a signal down to somebody on the other side of the gate, and you can hear a large, heavy bar being taken off. And then the gate gets opened by a couple other knights. They're not wearing cloaks, but they are wearing braces, signifying them as squires. And as we walk into the town, we are reminded of Fondirg's size, and as a somewhat introspective person, introverted person. Apis may be a little bit overwhelmed by the size of a town of this magnitude, but for now at least it's nighttime and there's very few people in the streets. We walk in on horseback, and one of the squires says, "What's your name?" What do we say? Ask him where to go to deliver this. Do we tell him? Do we say Apis? Say, Apis, where can we go to deliver these? And you tap the thing on the back of the horse, and his eyes go from you to the strange cargo that you're holding. What on earth is that? Joey, come over. And he calls over to another knight on duty. This one's he's very, very handsome gentleman, probably about 5'8". And he's got long, sort of blonde, like dirty blonde hair that's pulled into a ponytail at the back, and you can see that his ears are slightly pointed. But he's got a bit of a well trimmed chin strap beard, which would signify him as being half elf, because full elves tend not to have facial hair. And Joey walks over, and he's wearing a blue cape, which outranks the guy who pulled him over, and the guy says, what do you think of that? And Joey has a look. Where did you find this? Just north of here, in the Lannis Woods, right before getting here, about an hour ago. Is that so? Mind if I have a look? Be my guest. Right you are. And he unties one of the giant rats and please take your horse over. There's a hitching post just over here, and you walk your horse over, and you slide off the saddle and hitch up Mr. Ed. And Joey inspects the dragon. Sorry, what was your name? Apis Hive. Well, it's a pleasure, Apis. I'm Joey. And he starts to have a look. You killed these creatures? Aye, they attacked me and my companions. By the way, that's she's with me. And you look up to The guy on the gate is going. There's just like a giant bee standing on top of the gate next to him, and he's looking like speechless. She's with me. She's a companion called Mel, and you call up to her. Don't get yourself in trouble, Mel. Right, you are. And he kind of like gestures to her to be like, you can go in, I guess, if you want. He's never had to admit entry to a giant bee before. She flies down and lands on the back of Mr. Ed. Right, well, you've certainly done a number on them, especially this one. And he looks at the refers to the one whose head you exploded with the critical hit. Right, well, you're obviously capable of defending yourself. I heard you say you came from Shadridge, right? I did. I'm not from Shadridge, but I come with news from Shadridge. I've got a letter to the knights. Do you give this letter to him, or do you want to hold out for somebody who's a higher rank? Do you ask to speak to somebody of a higher rank? You would know that this guy is of the same rank, essentially, as Kathleen. I've got a letter from the leading knight I don't know what your ranks are, your names are in terms of who's in charge, but the person in charge of Shadridge, Kathleen. Just gonna roll to see if he knows Kathleen. It's unlikely, but there's always a chance. Let's give it a. No, he doesn't. It's, right. Who should I give it to? He says I can direct you to the Knight's Temple in a moment, and you'd probably be best to deliver it to the receptionist on duty. Right, you are. You would know. I think you've worked out before because you have used it in a lie that came back to bite you in the ass. That the Badger rank is outranked by the Wolverine rank, and you claimed to be a Wolverine at one point in order to outrank Kathleen. So you hold out for to give it to a Wolverine. Meanwhile, though, he has he continues to inspect the dragon rat, and he says, we should really warn someone that there's these in the area. You say it's about an hour to the north. About 40 minutes to an hour, I suppose. Right. And there are many of them. Did you get away from more? I didn't see any more, but I'm sure there are more. Right. That's worrying, but it's definitely worth keeping in mind. It could be the reason for some of our disappearances. Lately. It's definitely. Thank you for letting me know. I'll mention it. And he looks over. Harry, and he calls over one of the squires that let you in. Harry, start spreading the words to the other barracks that there's green dragons in the Lannis Woods. And Harry's eyes go wide. He's like, green half dragons. The green dragon has obviously been busy. I wonder if it's Ungahef or another. I hope it's not Ungahef. It means he's back in this area again. It's been a long time since we've. God, I hope not. But then again, the alternative might be even worse. Although if they attack each other, maybe he's talking to himself a little more now. Never mind. Harry, make sure you can head around to the other barracks. Let them know that there's some half-green dragons in the Lannis Woods. Not yet acting on it. We're just gathering information at the moment. And you mention, I've also got these, and you out one of the side saddle pouches of the horse. You pull out one of the much smaller green dragon squirrels. He goes, right, not just rats then, and he takes it. Okay, so he's been busy with a lot of things, whatever it is. Warn them about the breath poison. Just so you're aware, that these guys can breathe poison the same way as a proper dragon can. Just so be careful around their faces and things in case any of it's left over. He says, "Yes, thank you. I'm aware." What else? What do we talk about the Manticore as well? Are we going to tell them about the Manticore? Yep. All right. Could we extract poison from the corpse? You can if you want to keep the corpses and try and extract some poison. You can certainly try, see if you can do that. It might not be doable, but you can have a poke around. I'm not certain an ancient green dragon is going around just breeding with rodents. You don't know how ancient green dragons work. So you said you haven't heard from Shadridge in a while. That's one of the things that's covered in the note. It's sort of explaining what's happened. There was a manticore between here and there, and you fill them in on the details. Actually, I won't skim over it in case people are new to the channel and haven't heard it. There was a manticore between here and there, and the manticore was ambushing all supplies and letters and messengers and things between the two towns. And Joey sort of like in a knowing and a knowing sigh, he says, right, we were suspecting that it would be something like that. About a dozen or so people have been sent to Shadridge, and we haven't heard back from any of them. So thank you for letting us know. Do you have evidence of this manticore? And you say they've got it on display at a new menagerie that they've just built in Shadridge. So there's a manticore skeleton and a skin on display there, if you need the proof. But I've just journeyed from there, and it's a safe journey now as well, as long as you're staying safe through the Lannis Woods, I suppose. Do the children remain loyal to their dad? Making lots of rodent babies is a quick way to make an army. Maybe. We don't know enough about green dragons to know. Also, yes, we do have some of the spines in its pack, and we go, yeah, and also actually have some more of its spines still, I think. Right beneath the creepy doll there, you've got this manticore spines. You pull them out and you say, these are the spines that I took from it. And he goes, you took from it? Did you take out the manticore as well? Me and some friends. Wow, you're quite the accomplished fighter, I suppose. Hey, well, I consider myself more of a ranger than a fighter, I suppose. But either way, it's a pleasure to have you in town, Apis. Best not be starting any trouble in town, though. Man of your skills. And you say, I'm just not a man. And he goes, oh, my apologies. Lady of your skills. And you say, just them days fine. He says, my apologies again. Them day. A person of your skills, it would be quite a danger to have you kicking off any brawls in town. But you don't strike me as the brawling type. You say, no, not for me. I like to keep to myself more than anything. Right. Well, I can point out the best taverns and inns in town if you wish, or if you want to head straight to the Knights to deliver your letter, I can direct you. Joey, why isn't Darren this nice? Because your introduction to Darren was very different to your introduction to Joey. So where do you guys want to go? Do you want to go to an inn? Do you want to go to a tavern for some food? Do you want to go straight to the Knights? Let the Knights know ASAP. Knights first. Straight to the Knights. Knights. Alright, everybody's saying the Knights, so we'll go straight to the Knights. So he says, he gives you directions. It's basically straight to the centre of town. The temple to the Knights of Kvosna doubles as the jail. And so he's giving you directions to the jail of the town, which is in the town square, essentially. Is it night time? It is, yeah. It's about 7 or 8 p.m. So it's about a little bit after dark. Also, I have this horse, and he says, we can stable the horse for you. There's a stable hand just here. I can deal with that. And for your duties, protecting the town from beasts like this, I'm happy to cover the costs for it with the Knights of Kvosna, as a thank you for your services. So I'll happily stable your horse for you. You say, that's very kind of you, thank you. You go over to the saddlebags and you take your backpack off. Do you keep all of this stuff in like a satchel bag, like over your shoulder, or is it like a backpack, a haversack? Do you keep it in like a what? How do you guys imagine Apis with their belongings? How do you actually keep it all? Most people imagining a backpack. All right, so you get your backpack out and you strap that back on again, and you thank Joey for his time, and he says no problem. I will see you around, hopefully sometime. And then you bid him adieu and head off down through the town, following his directions. So being that you've stabled your horse now, you won't have the corpses of the rats that they would be kept with the horse, because you're not just going to walk around town with those. And you would have left the corpses of the green squirrels as well. So unless you want to specifically take those corpses with you, in which case you'll have to carry them through town somehow. They were strapped to a horse. So what do you guys want to do about it when you're stabling your horse and leaving? They can stay there for now. Fair enough. All right, so we leave them with the horse and we head off through town. It is only about 5-10 minutes to walk through town before we get there. We pass a number of residences first, followed by a number more of the sort of commercial part of town. Lots of shops, most of which are closed and shut up for the night because it's after dark now. We eventually get to the town square, just off from the centre of town, where the temple district is essentially, and in there is the Knights of Kvosna. You see a large building. It's got a white stone front to it, and above the door is the symbol to the Knights of Kvosna, which is a shield with a crossed sword and mace over it. We walk up to the front door of the Knights of Kvosna, and being that it is a public service and a place of worship, it is still open. You can walk in most times of the day or night, and there's usually somebody on duty. And sure enough, as you walk in, there is a desk off to the side immediately on the entrance of the door that is manned as a receptionist sort of area, and then it opens out into more of it's sort of the size of a church rather than a temple. But it has like one row of pews down one side, and a sort of altar with a symbol to the Knights of Kvosna above that, and then there are 2 doors on either side of the altar that leading to the majority of the building. So this front, actually it's probably more the size of like a chapel rather than a church. So it's a relatively small place of worship for the public to actually come and just pay their respects to the god Kvosna, who is the god of protection and justice. And then if you're a Knight of Kvosna, if you're one of the acolytes, one of the Knights of Kvosna, then you are you're permitted entrance into the rear of the place as well. You walk in and there is a person on duty. Let's see. Let me go. Who is on duty here? It is a human man. And he welcomes you as you enter. Hello. Welcome to Knights of Kvosna. Not familiar with you. Sorry. What business you got? You just here to pay your respects or what? Sorry, I'm Apis. I'm from a ranger from around. I've spent a lot of time in Shadridge, and I've come to deliver a note on behalf of the Knights of Kvosna of Shadridge. And his eyes kind of go wide at the mention of Shadridge, and he puts down his quill and what he was working on, and stands up and says, "You from Shadridge, you say?" Yes, I've come with message of what's happened over the last few weeks and why there's been lack of communication between the towns. Right, yeah. Just wait here if you won't mind. And he points over to the last pew of the chapel. Just have a seat there. I'll go and fetch somebody for you. And then he walks off down the length of the chapel and out one of those back doors. And you have a moment to look around the place. It's very well decorated. It's a stone building, and it's like white stone, and there is a very nice woodwork on these pews. You're only waiting for like 10 minutes or so before let's make sure that I'm not going to confuse them with other NPCs by making them too similar. I've got a lot of different temples of the Knights of Kvosna because they always come up in all of my games, and so I'm always it's getting to the point now where I'm like, oh god, is that which headquarters was that? Was that the one in Fenshaw or Wendraven, or was it in this town or that other town? So let's make. Ooh, I've never had a gnome in charge of the knights before. He's a gnome. There you go. He walks out, little gnome fella, and he's in a dark. It's sort of like a. It's not quite black, but it's a dark grey cape, and a bracer on his hand, of course. And he walks out, and he toddles along and behind this overweight human fella that was on the door, and he says, "It's that person over there." And this gnome waddles over to you and hops up onto the pew in front and kind of like just looks over the back of the pew at you. Says, "Hello there." And let's give him a name. What is he called? I love naming gnomes because they're so much fun. I just sort of mash buttons until I've got something. His name is Pertran Diddle Gibsworth. Pertran Diddle Gibsworth Leon. Findlesmith Gregory Smacklebomb. I love naming gnomes. Gnomes love names, and they love like silly names, and so it's always fun. His name is Pertran Diddle Gibsworth Leon Findlesmith Gregory Smacklebomb, and he introduces himself as such. They have a new name for every 5 years that they live. They have a new name from their friends give them names, nicknames. Their family gives them names. They usually take names from ancestors and things. You can just use their first name, Pertran. It says, "Hello, I'm Pertran Diddle Gibsworth Leon Findlesmith Gregory Smacklebum. How can I help you today? You can call me Pertran if you like, or Jib, or Diddle, or any of the above. I don't mind." Yeah. It's a pleasure to meet you. What was it? Pertran Diddle Gibsworth Leon Findlesmith Gregory Smacklebum. Well, it's nice to meet you, Pertran Diddle. Whatever. Because you can call me any of them. It's fine. Pertran's fine. Dibble, Jib. You can call me a new name if you like. I might even add it if I like it. So anyway, what can I do for you? And you say, I've got a letter for you. Are you the right person to give it to? It's from Kathleen, the Badger in Shadridge. I'm gonna just give him a percentage chance of knowing who Kathleen is personally. He's got a better chance of this. Still doesn't know. As Kathleen, that name doesn't ring a bell, unfortunately, but maybe I'll meet her in future. She's a Badger of. That's right, yeah. So you're from Shadrid yourself, then? I am. And you cut to the chase, blah blah blah. You tell them about how you got here and what happened, and mention the Manticore was responsible for preventing any messages and supplies getting through. Yada yada yada. I imagine it's all in the letter here. And he takes it and says, "I'll have a little look then." And he looks it over, and he first inspects it before opening it. It seems like he's inspecting the wax seal, but he's also looking at the back of it and the front of it and things. He's being cautious about just opening something that's been handed to him from a stranger. Is he the Wolverine? I will allow a certain check for you to see how much you know about the knights. I feel like it's probably a history check. It's almost like a culture check. A history check. That one's cocked-ish, but it was pretty much 16. 16 plus 3 for intelligence, and you're not proficient in history, so just 19 total. With a 19, you would know that the Wolverines tend to wear red capes, Badgers wear blue, and so with his dark grey is neither, and so he's you're intelligent enough to work out from context that he's probably on the administrative Knights of Kavosna rather than a field knight. He's probably been grabbed from an office in the back, and he's probably a high-ranking or middle ranking maybe administrative officer. We've still got some wounds. Yeah, we're not fully rested. I can't remember exactly how many hit points we're on yet, but if that becomes important, I will look it up. He says, right, and then he slides his thumb in and breaks the seal and unfurls it. Just give me one moment to read this then, and he scans pretty quickly. Right. Oh, okay. She says nice things about you. Is that right? It says here you were instrumental in the saving of the town on more than one occasion. That's interesting. Goblins. Oh, there's some elven towns up there. I didn't know that. Turns over the page. Oh. Oh, a necromancer. That's... Oh, okay. Well, I never. Seems you've got quite the story to tell. Manticore? That's it. Right, well, thank you very much for this. This is very useful information. We've had a number of disappearances of people over the last few weeks, and not a small number of them were people that had gone to Shadridge and not come back. So this answers a lot of questions. Oh, I'm just realising I've got to now approach all those families and tell them about their fate. I'll ask, if you don't mind. I'll ask you to keep this quiet around town, if you wouldn't mind. I'd prefer to be the one to deliver the bad news to families. You have to be tactful when you're telling somebody that their loved one might have been eaten by a manticore. Mention Paul. Would she have written about Paul? Yes, in the part about the necromancer, she would have mentioned that Paul was killed. She also requested aid from the knights. We also have a letter for Paul, for Paul's daughter, regarding his death. He says, right. Okay, that one you can deliver if you wish. I'm happy to deliver it if you don't like being the bearer of bad news. I can go visit Paul's daughter. I know where she lives. But if you want to deliver it yourself, you're more than welcome. But for the general public of the town, I'd appreciate if you'd just keep quiet a little bit about it until I've had time to disseminate the news myself. We should also mention the half-dragons. Yeah, on the way here as well, something that won't have been included in the letter because we didn't know about it until I was riding here to deliver it. Back up in the Lannis Woods. Blah, 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 blah. And then I rode here with their corpses. Joey has them on duty at the moment up at the northern stables. Says, right, half dragons. Right, well, I do share Joey's concern about what that might mean for us. I don't know how much you're aware of the area, but there's a green dragon that lives in the Giftigald forest just to the southwest of here. He hasn't been in this area for a long time. He usually sticks out closer to the coast, as far as we know, anyway. But he's a bit of a nuisance. I am aware of that dragon. Right, yes. Well, hopefully it doesn't mean that he's now in this area and procreating with rodents. But we'll definitely keep an eye out on that. Thank you for letting us know that, and I would be careful to. Be careful when riding through the Lannis, but maybe head in groups of more than one. It were probably for the best that you were a dwarf, eh? I hear your kind's quite hardy when it comes to poisons and things. It didn't hurt me as much as it hurt my horse. And oh, did it? Are you? And he said, no, we survived. I've got certain curative magics. Oh, you do? Oh, right. That's certainly useful for an adventurer such as yourself. Is there a register of people who moved out from Fondirg to Shadridge? And he says, yes, I think we've got a register of that somewhere. They probably hold on to it in the temple to Calandron. Let's make a religion check, see if you know. 2. You do not recognise the name Calandron. Well, you would recognise the name and you wouldn't know that it's one of the major gods, but you can't remember. You can't bring to mind right in this moment who it is. They probably have record of it out in Galandran, I imagine. But I can sort that. Don't worry. Don't you worry yourself about it. I agree with Sparrow. I also think we should ask if he can find out who sent the bags of cotton with the tiara hidden inside it. Are we going to ask about that then? One more thing. In the note there, Kathleen probably explained that there was a necromancer in Shadridge. Yes, she mentioned it. It was a young woman called Sally, who was a weaver here. That's right. She was sent, I don't know if she went into detail there, but she was sent a tiara in a bag of wool, yes, she mentioned. Right, well that's something to look into. Oh yes, we will certainly be looking into that. It seems like it's going to be a busy couple of weeks for us already. Already is, but you know, when is not a busy week in this town, eh? Well, if that's everything, then it seems I've got lots of work to get onto. So Sally lived here. Oh yes, Sally lived here for a while. I didn't know her personally, but she came from here apparently. That's what Kathleen says. She moved there from here. Right. You're not a knight yourself, are you? No, not yet. I'm considering. He goes, oh, right. Well, someone of your talents and skills, I'm sure you'd make a very valuable knight. If you need any more talking into it, I'm happy to tell you about the perks. Well, I'm interested. Could I perhaps have a tour of the place? Oh, yes, of course. Why not? And he hops off of his little pew and he goes down to about 3'2", and he says, "Come on this way." And Apis, have we ever talked about Apis's dimensions? Is Apis like somewhere? I've always imagined Apis as being like 4.5 feet ish. I think hill dwarves tend to be a little taller than mountain dwarves from memory, and all dwarves are usually between 4 and 5 feet tall. So I've always imagined Apis to be about 4.5 feet, and this guy's about 3'2". So you're like looking down on him even as a dwarf, which is a relatively new experience for you. You ask him is Sally's house open for investigation. Do you know if Sally's house, wherever she lived here, would be open for investigation? And he says, as I say, I didn't know her myself personally, so that's certainly one of the avenues that we will be investigating. You would make a good knight. Your mind goes to the right places, that's for sure. Well, parts of it does. Taller than a gnome, smaller than a human. That's right. Dwarves are right in the middle between all of the different. There's hobbits there's halflings and gnomes who are about 3 foot-ish, 3 to 4. Goblins are around about the same, 4-ish feet. And then there's dwarves who are 4 to 5 feet. And then elves are 5 to 6. And then humans are like 5.5 to 6.5. A little bit less than that, I guess. So he hops off of his pew, and you hop off yours, and he leads you through the thing and back down towards the altar and through the door at the back, through one of the doors at the back. Did anyone ask if the locals know of anywhere that might be any panpipe concerts? Yeah, so in my world, in my home games, halflings are called hobbits, and halfling is a racial slur against them, because it's like I'm half of what? I'm half compared to you. You're comparing my existence to yours just because I'm half of your height. And so they're known as hobbits. But obviously in things that I'm getting paid for, I can't officially call them hobbits. Can we ask them more about the dragons under the guise of the dragon squirrels? Sure. Yeah, as he gives us a tour, we'll ask him about the dragon. So he walks us through into the back, and it opens. Both of the doors from the altar open out into a corridor, which then opens out into a single door in the center. And he walks up to the last one of those, the door in the center of the corridor. And on it, there's instead in the place of a door handle or a door knob, there is a hand, like so. Actually, there'd be 2 hands back to back like this. And he reaches out his left hand, which is the one on that he's wearing a bracer on, and he grasps the left hand of the hand on the door, and then he clasps around the thumb. It's hard for me to do with not two left hands. And then his bracer glows, and there's something clicks, and then he rotates the whole thing like a handle, and then opens the door and walks through, and says, "Right, come on in. You can see in here. This is the officers." And he walks through and shows you that down one side are 3 officers, and down the other are 3 more. And you're opened into just a wide corridor, but relatively short. He says, "Just out here, 3 officers on that side. This one down the far end is mine. Nothing particularly interested to see here, but just other handle. That's right. Just other Knights of Kavosna doing their thing, working away. Most of them have gone home for the night, I believe." He walks into his office and he shows you his office. He's got a single desk. He's got a mannequin-like coat rack in the corner where he's got his armor on it for when he needs to armor up for any reason. Next to that, hanging on the wall, is a shield, and next to that is a gnome-sized longsword, basically a short sword. And he says, "Nothing too exciting there, I don't imagine, but there's my office." And he closes the door again. "Let me show you downstairs, eh?" He walks back out the door that he came in and turns down that corridor, and down the end there's one final door that you haven't been into. He walks along, and this one's got another one of these handles. He puts his hand on it and turns it around. It clicks, and does the animal look old or brand new? It looks relatively old, but well looked after. He opens this door, and it just opens into a spiraling staircase that goes down on, and being that you're on ground level already, it must go down beneath the ground. He goes, "This way is to the cells. Oh, before we go down, actually," and he closes that door again, "I'm going to have to ask you to leave your weapons here, because obviously you're come with the best of intentions as far as I know, but can't be too careful when it comes to showing people the jail cells." And he opens the other door to where we came in, and it's back out into the public area. And he calls over, what's his name? Eddie, would you mind taking our guests' weapons for a moment? And Eddie gets up. "No problem." Walks over. "If you don't mind just handing over your stuff, I can hang on to it beneath my desk, and you can get it on way back out. Can we get healed before we give up our weapons?" How fucked up are we, guys? Does anybody remember from the last session? Pretty bad. Wounded, at least. I don't suppose, as you're taking your weapons off, I don't suppose you guys have access to healing, do you? I got quite messed up during that dragon fight. He says, we do, but unfortunately it's reserved for Knights of Kavosna. We don't have a lot of access to getting new healing potions. We're not exactly on the frontier, getting them from elves and such. We have some herbalists that make them, but getting the ingredients for it is not the easiest. So unfortunately, we reserve them for the Knights of Kavosna. That is one of the perks of joining the Knights, is that you have access to things like that. So, are we handing over our weapons? Yeah. All right. So we hand over our weapons, and he asks to take our bag as well. We hand over all of this. And he goes, "Right, let me show you the cells, eh?" And he walks downstairs, he opens that door again, and walks down that spiral staircase, and you can hear your footsteps echoing off of the stone walls as you descend. It gets a little bit colder as you go. It's lit by what would it be lit by? It would probably be lit by small permanent dancing lights, the cantrip dancing lights that have been enchanted to make them permanent, just at strategic places through the spiraling staircase. So there's like 4 different orbs of light illuminating it as you go down. Eventually it gets only like 1 floor down. There's another one of these doors. You can tell from this that the door handles are slightly more ornate as you go. This one in particular is a little bit more high security, it seems. And again, he holds his hand out and opens the thing, and it swings open. We enter the jail cells, and sure enough, we can see all down one side of the wall, there's just about 4 or 5 different jail cells. And down the other side of the wall, there's 2 larger jail cells in the same length, so each one's like twice the size as this one. And then down up this close far end, up this close end, there is a small, almost podium-sized desk, and behind it is a knight who is reading a book and looks up when the door clicks. This one, who is this person? Let's have a look. This is a woman, a human woman with short brown hair and green eyes and tanned skin, and she says, "Ah, Bertrand, it's what do I owe the pleasure of this? Have we got? Oh," and she's almost like expects you to be in handcuffs, but you're not. Oh, what's okay?
He says, "Just giving a tour. This is it was Apis, wasn't it?"
That's right. Yes, Apis.
Just giving a tour to Apis here. Apis is a ranger from up to the Shadridge sort of area, and has informed us of some of the things that are going on between here and Shadridge.
Oh, so people are getting through from Shadridge finally.
Yes, there was a manticore apparently.
A manticore? Well, I never.
Yes, Apis dealt with it, so we've got them to thank for that. Just giving a little tour at the moment.
And you hear from the end, "I'm not a fucking tourist attraction!"
Yeah. Well, I won't show them your cell then, will I, Barry? You can go back to sleep, buddy. Right, well, anyway, this is all that there's to see down here. Shall we head back upstairs?
Turns around and heads back upstairs, and you follow. Closes the door behind him, closes the door at the top, leads you back out into the public area, and you get your weapons and bag back. Where do you do your training facilities and things? He goes, "Oh, there's an arena out the back of the. Let me show you that." He walks around the back of the temple area, and there is a backyard that is fenced up, and quite high fences on all sides. But there's a gate leading in from this side. He opens the gate and shows you in, and you can see that there's a bunch of training dummies and some arrows, some targets with arrows next to them. There's racks of weapons in a locked cupboard nearby that he points out.
And then says, "Right, this is where we do our training. Let's head on back round, and I'm just about to leave for the night. So unless there's anything I can do for you, anything more, I'll be saying me goodbyes and heading home."
Is there anything else you wanted specifically from the knights here, from Bertrand? Can you recommend anywhere to get a meal or somewhere to sleep for the night?
He says, "Oh, I can recommend lots of places. What sort of price range are you looking for?"
Whenever you're looking for food and an inn and such, you can choose Squalid. Squalid budget is like 3 copper pieces for the meal and like 6 copper pieces for the stay at the inn. So it's less than a silver piece for food and a place to stay, but you're usually eating like gruel and staying in a barn that's not even converted. Poor is like 1 silver piece for a meal and 1 silver piece for the room. So 2 silver pieces for a poor room. It's usually like still a barn, but like a converted barn maybe. And then instead of gruel, it might be like stew with like watery stew with not many vegetables in it. Modest is the next one up for about 3 silver, 2 or 3 silver for the meal and like 3 silver for the room. All the way up to aristocratic, which is like 2 gold pieces for the food and 4 gold pieces for the room. Poor, modest. Most people say modest. All right. Just somewhere in somewhere around the 5 silver for a meal and a room. And he goes,
"Oh yes, I know a few different places like that. Well, there's. Do you like in your downtime? Do you like to have a bit of rowdy atmosphere? There's a tavern in town that has the main attraction is a fighting arena, that one-on-one fisticuffs. There's a tavern in town where where it's mostly just for quiet contemplation and not a lot of things to do, but they've got plenty of books to read. There's a tavern in town that specialises in music, likes live music most nights. What sort of thing you after? The quiet, calm book one sounds nice to me. And he says, "Oh right, well then, I'll send you off in the direction of, and what would it be called? The Tattered Page. The Tattered Page. I like that. Hound dog. I'll go with that one." He goes, "I'll send you off in the direction of the Tattered Page then. So it's about three streets over from here, towards the outside of town. So you want to go this direction, and you go about 3 streets that way. You'll know the main street because it's cobbled. So you go down here on the dirt paths on the alleyways until you get to the cobbled street. That's the street over. And then follow that one round to the right, and eventually you'll see it. It's closer towards the town, the town walls, and you can see the Tattered Page is. It's got a little sign outside that says the Tattered Page, and it's got a picture of a book on it. It's often mistook for a library, but that's because the innkeeper who works there used to be an acolyte to Fifke, so it makes sense. So we thank Patron, and we set off towards the Tattered Page. And we wander down the alleyways and such. As we go, roll for a chance of something in a moment. Okay. As we go, we're keeping an eye out for just looking around the town. We're a bit of a tourist in this town. And we see that down one of the alleyways, there's a bit of a shady-looking dude in a hood that looks up as we pass, and then as we pass the end of his alleyway, he gets up and starts to walk in our direction. So we pick up the pace a little bit, and we make it to the main street, the next street over, the cobbled street. And we sort of glance back over our shoulder as this shady hooded individual looks out of the alleyway and realizes that we're in too much of a public place now, and turns around and walks back into the alleyway. And we're reminded that in a town of this size, petty crime is perhaps a little bit more abundant than in a small town like Shadridge, where everybody knows everybody. So we continue on walking down the way, and eventually we see the sign above this quaint little tavern that's got lights on upstairs and light spilling out onto the street. And it says the Tattered Page. And then we walk inside, and we see it's almost like we've walked into if a library and a tavern had a baby. It's laid out a lot like a tavern, but on all of the spare walls, instead of there being barrels or ornamental, dartboards or any other decoration. Any other decoration that you would normally have around a tavern, you instead have bookshelves. And as you walk in, there is a woman, a human woman, who is behind the desk behind the bar. She's talking to a dwarf man, and she says, yes, and I won't spoil it, but if you like that one, there's definitely the shelf. You see the one behind the man with the whiskey over there. Yes, behind him you can see that shelf. There's the third one down on that shelf, and I think it'd be about 6-7 in from the left. It's called the Dragon's Tooth, and you'd love it. You'd love it. I won't spoil anything, but similar sort of. It's not the same author, but it's a similar theme to it. And he goes, right, yeah, thank you for the recommendation. And he takes his book and his mug of something steaming, and he goes and sits in a little booth, opens it up as she looks up and, hello, come on in. I don't believe we've met. She says, I'm Andrea. How are you? Are you looking for a meal, somewhere to stay, a book to read, recommendations? We have them all. What do you want? What do you say? All of the above. Yes, and yes. Both is good.
You're looking rather, rather in need of a rest and a sit down, I must say. I am a little bit, yes. Um, yes, all of the above. I'm looking for a meal, a place to stay, a place to sort of relax and rest. I got injured on the way from Shadridge. Long story short, I'm here now and I'm safe. So I just all of the above. She says, right you are. Please take a seat at one of the tables over here. We don't. Well, all just to give you the rundown of the place. All of the books in the tavern side, the drinking side, have to remain in here. All of the books in the restaurant side have to remain in there. But other than that, the only rule is try and put them back where you found them, and no books are to leave the inn at all. Right, I can do that. So have a seat and find yourself a table in the restaurant. I'll bring across a menu for you. So we walk in and sit down at the table, and she walks over with a menu a few minutes later, and it's got things that would be appropriate for a tavern in the medieval Europe of mid-spring. So there's root vegetables, and there's pheasant and rabbit and a few different things that can be hunted in the nearby forests. There's venison, baked potatoes. There we go. You were the first. Baked potato, please. She goes, baked potato it is. What can I get for you with the baked potato? What would you like on it? Going into Bertrand's voice again. Some sort of cheese, please, like a cheesy. She goes, I do a wonderful sort of a cheesy mushroom mix that goes really well on the top of the baked potato. Right, I'll have that then, thank you. She says, very well. And she orders. She goes off to order you that. She also gets you a drink. What does Apis want to drink? Lots of people saying tea. Lots of people saying ale. Maybe tea first, and then ale if we want something stronger later. Fancy, can you start a 1 minute poll to see what we want to drink? Meanwhile, she is going to look up how much is that going to cost. So for a baked potato, 1 silver piece, and for a room to stay, 3 silver in this place, I reckon. So 4 silver overall, and then another silver for the drink. So like the whole thing, couple of rounds of drinks, a meal, and a place to stay. Let's call it 5 silver. So I'll mark off 5 silver. She brings back the food, the drink, and a key to the room that you'll be staying in. When she drops it off, she explains where the room is, how to get to it. You go out of this actual tavern drinking area, and you head round the back of the place, and there's a series of small chalets all next to each other, and yours is the 6th one down. And then we ravenously tuck into this baked potato and cheesy mushroom something or other with chives on top, and it's delicious. It's very, very delicious and filling. There is a communal washroom cake ladder. Yeah, we ask her when she comes back with our drink, which is tea by the looks of it, with 53% of the vote. She comes back with a pot of tea and a teacup, and you can keep topping yourself up. She comes back with that, and it's very, very nice tea. And we ask, do you have a bath here? And she says, there's a communal there's a bath house in town towards the centre of town in the Temple District, but we do have a communal washroom. It's not as nice or as well stocked as the Temple to Sarani, but there's a communal washroom that whenever it's available, you just have to sort of, sometimes there's a queue in the busiest times of the day, but at this time of night there's usually no one in there. And there's 2 different cubicles within the communal washroom with bathtubs in them, so you should be able to find one, I'm sure. Yeah, I'll try for that. So we nom. We drink our tea. It's delicious. A couple of hours, like an hour of just sitting at this table. We've finished our meal. She comes back and talks to us a little bit. She says that she used to be an acolyte to Fifka, who is one of the gods of knowledge, of the knowledge domain, and uses that their temples tend to be libraries. She's always been fascinated with books and reading. So over the years, she's amassed quite a collection, and she takes donations on the regular from people. You ask why the two sides need to be kept separate, and she says that it's just that the ones in the restaurant side are a little bit less high quality books, and so it's not quite as important for them to remain in good condition. They're more likely to get foodstuffs on them if people are reading while they eat. Whereas the ones in the tavern side are more well looked after, and her bar, where she spends most of her time, can overlook that side of the thing, so she can generally tell if people are mistreating the books or anything from there. So she's got a better eye on that side of the bar, so she tends to keep her nicer books over there. Does she have anyone who can ghostwrite our adventures? Does she have anyone who writes? She probably have quite a few writers that come in to give donations of their books. She says, yes, I could probably put you in touch with a writer. I don't imagine it would be very cheap. I don't know how much they would charge for their services, but I know quite a few writers. Do you have any books on Horizon Walkers? I've just learned about them, and I'm curious to know more. Firstly, does she know what Horizon Walker is? She does. Does she have any books on them? What would the percentage chance of that be? She does. She says, yes, I believe so. That's a term that I haven't come across in quite a while. I believe it's under the Sorcerers and Sorceress Origins. I think there's something like that. Sorcerers and Sorceress Origins. It would be in the other section. You finish your tea, and then I'll have a look for it in the meantime. And by the time you want to retire into the inn for a final drink, a nightcap, I should have hopefully found it by then. So you finish your tea, having a look around this side of the tavern, and then you walk over to your way over to the other half of the tavern area, and she has, let's see if she's found it. This would be an investigation check on her part to see if she remembers where the hell Sorcerers and Sorceress Origins would be. That's a good investigation check. It's all coming up apis for you here. So we walk over to that area of the tavern, and she greets us with a book. It's relatively thin. It's got a dark green, sort of like an emerald green cover, but it's been muted right down to sort of a non-saturated emerald green, and it's trimmed in like a golden outline around the front page, and it just says Sorcerers and Sorceress Origins. It's mentioned that she's a lady called Ruby Gladstaff, who is herself a sorcerer, and she's studied inherent magics. She's studied magics that come about not through study or gift or pact, but through circumstance of birth or some such event. And there is a chapter on Horizon Walkers as a sorceress origin, and so she hands us that and tells us that she remembers reading a chapter in that one, and she's even bookmarked it for us by the time we finished our tea. So we turn to the page and spend the next hour or so reading what Ruby had to say about Horizon Walkers. We learn from it that they... Actually, let me pull up Horizon Walkers to make sure that I'm not accidentally saying things that aren't even true about Horizon Walkers. You know what? Why don't I just read it? This is exactly what Ruby's written. Horizon Walkers guard the world against threats that originate from other planes or that seek to ravage the mortal realm with otherworldly magic. They seek out planar portals and keep watch over them, venturing to the inner planes and the outer planes as needed to pursue their foes. These rangers are also friends to any forces in the multiverse, especially benevolent dragons, fae, and elementals, that work to preserve the life and the order of the planes. And then she's gone into some detail about how often they will inherently have protections against the outer planes, both evil and good. And we realise, oh yeah, I've got a spell that protects us from evil and good. She says that if they survive to a great enough age and experience, they will tend to be the first time that they are learned to be Horizon Walkers. It tends to be around puberty-ish time when they accidentally step for the first time, and they will step into another of the inner planes. Often Horizon Walkers don't make it to adulthood because accidentally stepping into another plane can be very dangerous, especially if you end up on one of the elemental planes. You could die immediately. Even if they don't step to another plane. So she speculates, it's hard to know how frequent the birth of Horizon Walkers are, because if someone was a Horizon Walker and we didn't know about it, and they step for the first time and end up on the fire plane, chances are they're just going to go missing from the material, and no one will know where they went, and they'll just be put down to like a missing person rather than knowing exactly that they were a Horizon Walker. It's only those that step and survive it that we realise are Horizon Walkers, and they're very rare. Is all she says about them. They're very rare. After puberty, once they start to gain control, they can usually step from one place to another within a few feet. They can surround themselves in mist and transport, stepping through a portal to the ethereal plane and ending into the same plane of existence that they stepped from. Later on in life, they can manipulate the energies of time itself and slow down, and using the magics that created the worlds, they can speed up their own reaction times, and their own synapses can be forced to move at a greater speed. And eventually, if the most powerful of the Horizon Walkers are known to be able to banish, to utilize their affinity for planar magic to even banish other people to different planes of existence. And then finally, let's see, what would Ruby know about planar warriors? Would you know? What do you know about? Yeah, she would know that there is she names the most famous Horizon Walkers. She says that there was once a famous Horizon Walker called Umar Rashid. He was from the continent of Radi Sawab, and was a sultan of one of the countries of Radi Sawab for a great many years, a few centuries ago. There is... Give me some names, everybody. I think she'd probably list about... Let's see. Let's roll a d6. See how many famous Horizon Walkers she lists in her chapter on Horizon Walkers. 3. Umar Rashid. She would list someone by the name of Ebony Nightwing. I like that. Ebony Nightwing, who was a sorcerer of... Ebony Nightwing. She sounds like she's European. So she was sorcerer of Peor. How long ago did Ebony Nightwing live? That sounds like a dragonborn of some kind. 132 years ago. She lived in Peor 132 years ago. And Duncan, Ashra Silvertooth, Ashra Duncan, Listeria Moonbeam, Duncan, Douglas Adam Mears. Duncan, I like Duncan as just like, it's just Duncan. He was just known as Duncan, and he wasn't even an adventurer. Duncan, oh shit, what's my American continent called? Can't remember now. She was from that North American continent. How long ago did Duncan live? I feel like he was relatively recently. Let's put it at a D100 ago. 27 years. So he could still be alive, maybe. Duncan specializes in donuts. Duncan professes the formation of the plains. Some people talk about them as being like a great tree. Some people talk about them as being a wheel. Duncan professes that the formation of the plains forms sort of like a donut shape. All right, so that's what you learn about Horizon Walkers from this book of sorcerers and sorceress origins. And yes, of course, rangers, not sorcerers, but it's in the world. They don't necessarily use the same classifications as the D&D book does. Somebody who has inherent magics why are they any different to somebody who has wild magic? They would still consider them sorcerers in that sense. Umar Rashid, Ebony Nightwing, and Duncan. So we go to eventually we close the book. We head off to the communal. We head off to the communal bathroom, the washroom, and there's not a queue outside. We go inside, and one of the two bath cubicles is open, and the long drop is open as well. So we do our ablutions. We run ourselves a bath. We cleanse ourselves of the several weeks of rangering, probably been rather stinky. And get ready for bed, and then we head off to our little chalet and unlock it. Where's Mel been this whole time? I often forget about NPCs. Mel's just been following along, buzzing around, following through town. She's rested on the top of the on the tavern while we were inside, and then she buzzes up to us afterwards and comes on inside our little chalet. It's comfortable. It's modest. It's not a converted barn, but it's also not a mansion. So it's better than sleeping out in the forest. That's for sure. We have a long rest. We recover all our hit points and spell slots and things. Let me just pop all of those spell slots back on. Overnight, we probably dream of green dragons and beasts of the forest. We probably dream of goblins and ogres attacking villages, and then the goblins are slightly like half green dragons, and there's a whole bunch of our last few weeks of experience all muddled into a confusing sorting out of dreams. But most of them, by the time we wake up, they're gone like smoke in your fingers. They disappear. None of them seem to stand out as prophetic in the same way that our vivid dream about the Hunter's Mark seemed to stick out. Alright, so it is the next day now. Let's have a little look at my timeline. That means it is the 5th of Altabris. We do our morning ablutions, of course. We go to the communal washroom. There's a bit of a wait because in the morning there usually is, and so one at a time we make our way through. We wash our face, brush our teeth, if that's a thing that people do in medieval times. I'm not sure. And then head back to our room and get all of our stuff together, because we only paid for one night, so I assumed we were only staying here one night. What do you want to do? We could read the herbalism book that we have. Plains, Plants and Potions. Yeah, that's a good tongue twister. The books we have are Book on Plains, Book on Plants, Book on Potions. It's a good way of remembering it, Tara. Are we going to take the letter to Paul's daughter after reading for a bit? We can just give the letter to Bertrand, so we can pass that off as a night duty if we don't want to deliver the bad news ourselves. It is something that is in the wheelhouse of a knight of Kavosna to do that. We didn't hand over the doll. I vote that we have for breakfast, and then we head back to the knights. Ask who would be best equipped to find the owner's family, because we have the creepy doll that belonged to somebody, and to where we can find Paul's daughter. Medieval people did brush their teeth. Well, there you go then. Apis has got a toothbrush that's just not accounted for in the inventory. I should just put like an ablutions kit that has like a bar of soap and some whatever. What do we want to do, guys? Give me some options. What you want to read? So, who's thumbs up if you want to read for an hour or two first. All right, most people wanting to read, so we do so. We go back into the tavern. I'll mark off another silver for a modest breakfast. She brings us out some porridge and some toast with some preserves on it. And while we eat, when she delivers the food, she asks if we want to choose one of the books to read while we eat breakfast, and we say, actually, I've got my own. And she says, oh, very well, you're welcome to read your own. What is it? And you bring out the book of herbalism and you show her the title and the author and things. She says, oh yes, I have a copy of that myself, actually, just over in the other section. And so you spend an hour reading your herbalism book. I will do a progress check towards your herbalism score. Progress check is if you want to know the specific rules of how I train in my world, then you can find those rules over on my Patreon. Just a little shameless plug there. But put simply, it is a D20 plus twice your intelligence modifier plus any teaching modifier. You are teaching yourself not with a tutor, but with a book. So you get a +2 to your teaching modifier. So this plus 8, and you need a 12 total. So 7 plus 8 is a 15. That is 1 success. So you get a point towards progress of your herbalism. And I will mark that down here to do later. Read herbalism, 1 hour, 1 progress. And once you get to a specific progress score, you achieve that goal. So you are not yet proficient in herbalism, but eventually, if you keep reading this herbalism book and you keep progressing with your progress checks, you will gain proficiency. Well, you'll first gain half proficiency, and then you'll eventually gain proficiency in herbalism. You're not that far off either. You're not that far off of half proficiency. So you've eaten your breakfast. You've read your herbalism book. I think the next pressing thing people wanted to do was to go to the Knights of Kavosna, right? Do you find anything interesting in this book while reading it? Just stuff about herbalism, stuff about how to analyze certain plant material and its uses in herbology. All right, let's go to the Knights. So you grab your stuff, you bid your thanks to Andrea, and you head on out of the door, bringing with you a giant bee through the streets. Now, in the morning in Fondirg, it's a lot more popular than after dark in Fondirg. You can see that there are quite a few people milling about the streets, quite a bit busier than the streets of Shadridge were, that's for sure. Now, do you want to try and find your way to the Knights the way that you came before, going through the alleyways? Or given the near miss that you might have had with some sort of shady individual in the alleyways, do you want to stay out of the alleyways and go the long way around? You want to go to the Knights so that we can deliver the doll, give the letter to Paul's family, explain the horse, mention they have details if the Knights want any more information. Get a bee's eye view. Go the long way around. The alleyways will be safer in daylight. Potentially, yes. Alright, cool. I will just make a general perception check on Apis's behalf then, just to see what you see as you walk through town. 10 plus your perception of 4, so that's going to be 14 to hit. 14 to see things. Alright. We can explore our way to the temple. Yeah, we're exploring the town a little bit, but making our way generally towards the centre of town where the quote unquote temple district is. The things we notice are there is a tanner. Well, sorry, not a tanner. It would be the retail section of a tannery. The actual tannery is on the outskirts of town, outside of the walls to the south, because they don't want that stinky business in the city walls, in the town walls. But when the tanner's done with actually tanning and making materials, then they send it in town to the shop where they actually make them into cloaks and gowns and various materials. There is a furniture shop in town, a carpenter. There is a candlestick maker. There's a few different shops of various different types that we pass. Magical shops. In terms of magical shops, what would a town like this have? Would it have a magic shop? There's a chance it would. It's just kind of on the verge of whether it would have a magic shop or not. Let's give it a percentage chance of having one. Town of 1,000 people. What's its purpose? Fondirg. Okay. We ask around. We ask somebody passing, because it comes to us that we haven't seen any magic shops. We say, "Is there a magic shop in town, by the way?" And the human man that we stop says, "Magic shop? Well, what do you mean a magic shop?" Like a shop where you might buy magical items and things. He says, "I don't know if they sell them, but there's a headquarters to the Arcanists Entente in the Temple District, and there's some soothsayers around that will do various trinkets, but I don't know of any magic shop. I'm sorry." And he carries on his way. So we eventually head through town. We don't see anything that in the way of a magic shop, but apparently there's an Arcanists Entente, which is the Wizards Guild. And there's a headquarters to that in town, and there's a few different like soothsayers and diviners that you might be able to go to for various magical trinkets, but unlikely that you'll be able to buy a bag of holding by the sounds of it. You might be able to ask around, maybe buy one directly from the source, like directly from somebody who has one, but it doesn't seem like there'd be a shop in this town that would sell one. Eventually, however, you make your way to the Knights of Kvosna, and you enter the same temple as before, and you see a young teenage woman on the reception who looks up and welcome. You're a little early for the you're a little early for the meeting of everybody, but you're welcome to take a seat in any of the pews. And you say, "Oh, I'm not here for the service. The service is the word I was looking for. I'm sorry. I'm nervous. It's my first day. It's alright. I'm just visiting. Right. You're welcome to take a seat anywhere. Then you say, right. Do you know if Pertran is in?" And she says, "Pertran? Oh, the gnome." And you say, "Well, yeah, Pertran, yes, he happens to be a gnome. Yes. I'll see. You can take a seat. I'll be back." And she walks off down the front. There's a few moments later, she comes back, and Pertran's following. And he says,
"Oh, thank you, Cassandra. You can have a seat. Oh, it's Apis. Hello, Apis. Welcome back. Did you forget something?"
You say, I not necessarily. I just I've got, and we want to give him the creepy doll. We want to give him the doll, give him Paul's letter, and give him the horse. Is that the idea? Like we're washing our hands of it and saying, "Knights, you can take care of this." Is that the idea, everybody? Yes. All right. I have something I didn't mention yesterday. In the Manticore horde, and he says, "If you wouldn't mind, why don't you follow me to my office? We're just having a meeting at the moment, and any details about it might be important for you to be there for." I just named her. What was her name? Cassandra, who seems, as we've seen her walking about now, she seems like she's mid-teens, probably like 14, 15, and she's not wearing a Knights of Kvosna bracer or a cloak, which would signify that if she's working here but not wearing any of the insignia, she's probably a potential squire or a prospective squire. So she's been taken into the Knights, but she's not officially a knight yet. She's trying to work her way into being a knight, it seems. So he walks us back into the office area in the reverse of the rear of the building, and outside of his office you can see that there are 3 other Knights of Kvosna. There are 2 in blue cloaks. No, there would be two in blue cloaks, one in a light grey cloak, and one in a silver cloak. Would there be a silver? Yeah, I think there'd be one silver here. And he walks up and says,
"Gentlemen, this is Apis. This is the person who delivered the letter yesterday. News from Shadridge and things. They've come back with more news of. Is Joey there? And Joey's not there. Joey is a badger rank, not a wolverine or above. Seems like this is disseminating the information to the higher ranks that they can go off to their respective barracks and spread the information to their respective badges and things under their control. So we say, this is Apis. They delivered the information. They've got more information for us, I believe. What were you going to say, Apis? And you're all kind of just standing outside of his office in the corridor at the moment. I was just going to say that in the Manticore's hoard, there was this toy, and you take it out of your bag, and it says, "I'm scared." And they go, "Right." Let's see if any of them recognize it. Let's see. Small town like this, everybody knows everybody. 2 degrees of separation. What's the chances that one of them would actually know whose it is? Hey, there we go. I gave it a 15% chance that one of them would actually know it, and I rolled a 14. So it's one of the guys in the blue cloaks, which you would know to be a Wolverine rank. That's a talking doll. That's I think it's little Samson. What was her name? Jesse Samson or something. I think Jesse Samson had one of them. That was in the Manticore thing. Shit. Yes, that's the that's shit. That means she didn't survive. There wasn't a kid there, was there? And you go, I'm afraid not. You go, no. All right. Okay, I think I know who that belongs to, or who it belonged to. They're a friend of my wife's. Their family is. I can deliver the bad news, I think. Oh shit! They're gonna be so gutted. They've been worrying. They've been fearing exactly this for the last 3 weeks since they didn't get the letter. Well, at least that's another family off of the list of all the people that have gone missing. At least we know what happened to the Samsons. If you wouldn't mind, I can take that. And so you hand over the doll. Yes, no, yes. I can't imagine any no's from this one. Creepy doll. Bing! Out of the inventory. Shove it in his arms. As you pick it back up to give it to him, it says, "Play with me." And you wince one more time and you hand it over. And as he grabs it, it says, "Wah, wah." And he just holds it in his arms limply while you finish the rest of this meeting. You have successfully, at least apparently, found the owner of the doll. To the bad news that is coming to their extended family, it seems. The Samson did not make it to Shadridge. So then you say, there's also the matter of this letter that I have, and you pull out the letter that Kathleen gave you to give to Paul's daughter. And Bertrand says, "Yes, we were actually going to head round there today, so it's a good thing that you've got the letter. If you want, I can take that for you if you like, unless you want to deliver it yourself. Did you know Delilah? Do you want to deliver it yourself, or do you want him to take it?" Most people saying yes, just hand it over. We didn't know her. Hand it over. All right, hand it over for ransom. So yeah, we just hand the letter to Bertrand to deliver to Delilah on our behalf, on Paul's behalf, I guess, explaining the news of what happened.
And what's her name? Kathleen wrote in the letter that she gave to the knights yesterday. She wrote the details of what had happened with Paul, not like gruesome detail, but the fact that he was victim to a necromancer attack, and his body was dealt with appropriately, and that his house has been turned into a barracks in his name. So we mention all of this to Bertrand, and we also say as way of inheritance, I've brought I rode Paul's horse down here, and that I suppose technically belongs to this Delilah as well now.
He says, "Oh right, you leave it at the northern stables."
I did, yes, along with the dragon creatures that I killed.
And he goes, "Oh yes, we just one moment. We were talking about this morning."
And he walks off, and he comes back with a small pouch for you, and inside is 6 gold pieces.
He says, "This is for your troubles. You did a great work for the town, helping us out with those nasties, and monster hunting is always rewarded in the town. So here you are. This is for your troubles. I know you put yourself in harm's way to deal with them."
You say, "Oh, thank you very much. You don't need to become a knight. We get paid anyway. If you become a knight, you get paid more." And you actually get paid before doing the job. You take commissions in order to go and seek out the work, rather than getting paid for paid a token sum as a thank you. You get paid in living wage as a thank you. Tell them that the rats speak Draconic. Just came to me now, actually. The rats, the dragon creature rats and squirrels, they actually they spoke Draconic as well. I speak a little Draconic myself.
He goes, "Oh really? That's quite an unusual language for a person to know. I don't think I've ever met a dwarf who speaks Draconic before."
You say, I do. And I shouted at them something in Draconic while I was attacking them, and they seemed to respond to it, and were reactive. So I'm pretty sure they understand it, even if they don't speak it.
Right.
Do they have anything to bring back to Shadridge? Do you have anything to bring back to Shadridge? If I'm heading back that way, and you say,
"Oh, are you heading back already?" We're hoping that someone of your skills and talent would be able to stick around the town. It'd be useful to have someone of you around. But if you're heading out today,
I'm not heading out today, not just yet. Just when I go back that direction. If you've got anything for me.
And he goes, "Oh, well, pop by again before you leave." And I might have thought of something just then, but we've got so much to think about here with all of the people going missing and whatnot that we've got enough to deal with.
Can we join the knights? If you want to join the knights, you can join the knights, but you all have to make that decision as Apis. It's a poll that I think after today's session, it's close. It's been long enough that we should actually put it to a poll, and decide once and for all. Kathleen was going to recommend us, but we are undecided yet. What are the benefits of joining the knights? So the Knights of Kvosna is a faction. It is a faction of fighters and paladins and general protectors. There are a few different paths that you can take in the Knights of Kvosna. There is the path of Town Guard, which most Town Guards are Knights of Kvosna. There is the path of Field Knight, which is going out there and exploring and finding monster lairs and killing them and looting dungeons and making the place a safer place. Field Knights will also be tasked with protecting merchants on their journeys from town to town out in the wilderness. They will be tasked with investigating mysteries and solving problems like that. There is also the administrative side of the Knights, where you can go into the people in the grayer toned capes are administrative knights. They're the ones who look after the chapter, and usually retired field knights. So there's perks in that you What do you know about the knights so far? There's perks in that the field knights will take commissioned jobs. You get paid for taking on a job, saying like, there's rumours that there's a hill giant in the area that's eating the farmer's sheep or something. You would get paid a certain amount to go and investigate that, and if you deal with it, if you kill the hill giant, then you are entitled to keep a certain percentage of that hill giant's hoard as a reward for yourself, and the rest of it goes to the knights to pay for fees and things. Other perks include access to potions and magic items at cheaper than retail prices. Another perk is that you have backup wherever you go. You're a member of a faction that will happily give backup and aid to you given certain situations. So there's lots of perks, but it comes with the drawback, I guess, of you would be tied to the oath that you would take. You would be tied to being a knight and acting in a certain way when you're around people, and you'd be representing the Knights of Kvosna wherever you go, and you can basically earn what have I called it? You can earn renown within your faction, and in order to progress through the ranks, you need more and more renown. If you fuck up, if you do something that reflects poorly on the Knights of Kvosna, then you lose renown, and eventually, if you lose enough renown, you can get punished or fired in a certain way. One of the perks is like if you want a side quest, if you want some more money, or you need something to do to pass the time for a week before something else happens, you can go, I'll take this job that's investigating the troubles at the old McCreary farm or something. You pay a small fee, well, you pay a relatively large fee. You pay a fee to be a field knight, which encourages you to get out there and actually do things, rather than just being like, I'll just claim a salary like a town guard knight does instead. There would be strong disapproval of leaving if it would decide it wasn't for us. Yeah, you wouldn't just take it on lightly. You have to say an oath and be like, swear to protect people and blah blah blah. You can be an independent contractor, yes, but you don't get any of the perks of being a knight. Like last night, when you turned up all fucked up, if you were a Knight of Kvosna, they would say, oh shit, let's tend to your wounds. And they would use the knight's resources to tend to you. They might give you a healing potion or sell you a cheap healing potion or something. Likewise with your armour, if your armour's getting all messed up from being on too many journeys, they'll look after your armour, they'll clean it and fix it and things for you for free or for cheap. You don't get those sorts of perks. And I think you've noticed firsthand in this game so far that if you the knights have got a bracer that if they use the action to activate the bracer, it sends out like a police whistle. It sends out like a calling card to all of the different knights within a certain radius, and they know that there's a knight in trouble and they come running. So it's like a backup area, a backup thing, which isn't so handy out in the wilderness where you're the only knight for miles around, but in a town it can be very useful. Maybe not the faction for Apis. It's entirely up to you guys. There are other factions in the world. There is the faction called Pankempwyr en Emgylshed, also known as the PEA, for the people who don't speak Elvish. Their faction is about maintaining balance between wilderness and civilization, making sure that the settlements don't grow too large and encroach too much on the wilderness, and making sure wilderness doesn't overtake abandoned settlements and things. The PEA they're responsible for putting out and maintaining huts in the forests, safe houses for people to stay in when they're out in the forest. They're like a druid and ranger faction. Lots of elves join the PEA. There's also the Arcanists Entente, which is the wizards and sorcerers faction that study and maintain magic, and they're sort of the law enforcement for magic in particular. They maintain the laws of certain spells, like the fact that necromancy spells are mostly illegal and that sort of thing. Then there's the Artisanal Alliance. I don't know if I've talked much about the Artisanal Alliance before, but Apis could. I don't think Apis would really do it. What does Apis do? Brewer's tools. For instance, if Apis ever settled down and opened an inn or something, they would probably be asked to join the Artisanal Alliance, being that they would be a brewer. Weavers and carpenters and anyone who does like a trade, they're usually in the Artisanal Alliance. It's basically a union of and the Artisanal Alliance is built up of a lot of different sub-factions. The Tongue and Tom, for instance, is the faction that encompasses all food-related matters. Chefs and things are all part of the Tongue and Tom, which is an Artisanal Alliance. An Explorers Alliance. The closest you've got to Explorers Alliances are the PEA and the Knights of Kavosna Field Knights. The Come and Go. Oh yeah, the Come and Go Guild House as well. So Come and Go is a member of the Artisanal Alliance that revolves around travellers and people who make wagons and things, vehicles, and maintain and make and invent vehicles and things. Come and Go. Where would we go to find out information about being part of the PEA? You'd have to go to a PEA headquarters, which are usually greenhouses and things. A town of this size might have a PEA. It probably would have a PEA. Ask about the Necromancer. What are we asking specifically about the Necromancer, Perihelia? What do you wish to know about the Necromancer? We can ask them. If we're going to stay here another night, we could go back to the Tattered page and see if they have a book on the PEA. They definitely would. They probably have several. Can someone leave the Knights if they join and decide later it isn't for them? Yeah, you can leave. It's just, it's not like you're bound by blood to serve them forevermore. It is a faction of guards and knights, and if you decide it's not for you, you can leave it. It's just you would lose renown within them, and then you probably wouldn't be able to join again. Mention that you have details if they want Kathleen's letter fleshed out a bit. If you feel like any details were missing from Kathleen's letter, by the way, I was there for most of what she's written about. I can tell you a bit about more of it. And at that prompting, the other knights standing out in the hallway with you, they do ask follow-up questions, and you spend the next half hour talking them through the details of what happened. How much are you telling them about once they get onto specifically the Necromancer situation, which they find the most pressing? They're spending most of their focus on talking about this Necromancer Sally. Once they start talking about that, how much do you tell them about the fact that you were a suspect or anything like that? We stay hush about Moshe's powers. Okay, so we don't tell them about the fact that we found a weir fox during that investigation. We don't tell them about being a suspect. Tell them everything it worked out in the end, proved our innocence and was worth it. Okay. Kathleen probably would have mentioned it. We don't know. We didn't read the letter, so we don't know exactly what she mentioned. I thought a letter was sent to clear our name. A letter was sent to clear your name before you dealt with the Manticore. We gloss over it. Alright, so we don't volunteer the information about being a suspect, but if it comes up, we're honest about it. Okay. Ask if we can go and have a look at Sally's old house. Can we... so Sally used to live here, right? And the man in the light grey cloak says, yes, she did. She used to live out... She learned her weaving trade from a weaver in town. She was an apprentice there. And then she went off to hone her craft in Shadridge and to become a weaver of her own right. So she used to live with the weaver in town. Would I be okay to have a look around it and investigate? And they all kind of look at you confused and suspicious.
And Bertrand says, why would you want to poke around there?
Just because if there's clues and things. And he goes, oh, that's a night business. You don't need to worry yourself with that. Just with all due respect, of course, Sally's still out there, and if she comes back, we need to have as much information as we can. He says, "Yeah, I understand that. It's certainly a top priority for us. You don't need to worry about that. We're certainly looking into it, and it's going to be things that we're doing today. That's why we're having such an early meeting. But yeah, if you're if you have more questions about how it's gone, you can come back tonight, and I'll tell you what we've found out." So it seems by telling the knights this information, you've given the knights the information of this investigation that needs to happen, and they're, as it is their job to do so, they are going to investigate it now. If you want to be involved directly with this investigation, it seems like being a knight is the best way to do that. Otherwise, it's not really your place to investigate it. And you could still try and poke around on your own, but you'd be doing so without the assistance of the knights. And if you were caught poking around a crime scene or potential crime scenes, and you weren't a knight of Kvosna, there's a chance that would reflect poorly on you. Let's try not to be too sus on our very first day in town. To be clear, we have been in this town before. We've spent time in this town, a couple of weeks here and there, and we usually don't spend too much time here because it's a big, large town. But we pass through, stay for a few days, and then leave again. Rob's hinting for us to join the Knights. Rob is not at all hinting for you to join the Knights. Rob is putting everything out there, factually, and you have to make that decision. I'm telling you what is and is not the benefit of joining the Knights. One of the benefits of this is that you can wipe your hands of the necromancer problem and be like, that's an entire faction of Knights problems now. But then you don't have the direct information to know what's happening with that investigation. If you want to follow that plot as a plot thread, if you're really interested in that necromancer plot thread, you can do so, but you'd have to either join the Knights or persuade them to use you as some sort of a persuade them to use you as a consultant. Do we want to make that major of a decision for our future just to investigate this situation? It's not just this situation, the mailbox. Obviously, it's all future situations as well. You would have more. You would be able to open more doors if you had Knight of Kvosna, open up, night business. Kvosna business. It's subtle, but it's there. He's glorifying it. I see his plotting. I'm glorifying it because it's a faction that I've created. I'm happy for somebody to join and see it through. I've got it all fleshed out. But if you join the PEA, I'm just as happy because I've fleshed them out as well. It's just that you haven't been actively inside of a PEA headquarters talking to the people of the PEA yet. It's the NPCs are talking to you about the benefits of joining because you're specifically talking to them, and they're working there. Of course, they're going to talk it up. Yeah, the weaver that Sally used to work for is a man called Jared Pisset. He's from the Pioran continent originally. He's getting on in years now. And they say that we'll be investigating Jared later today. We'll go and talk to him about Sally and who she was and why she turned this way. All right, I'm going to put it to a poll. This is not a binding poll, but I just want to know a rough idea of what people are thinking. Are you leaning towards joining the Knights or not? Alright, what are people leaning towards or away? With 60% majority, people are currently leaning towards not joining the Knights. Okay. So the poll can be put off for a later date. The majority of Apis, not by a huge margin, but 3/5 of Apis's mind is leaning towards not joining the Knights. And so we don't put any plans into action to join the Knights yet. Maybe in future something will happen to change our mind or solidify our decision. But for now, we'll still just leave as is. So what do you want to do now, guys? You're talking to these guys. They've asked you all of the follow-up questions about the situation in Shadridge. And they're about to break the meeting and leave and start going off to to spread that information that they've just got to all of their respective barracks around town. What is it you want to do? Ask them about the Green Dragon and older reports of it. Yeah, that's right. Fancy wanted to ask about the dragon before, and I forgot. So as we were walking through just back to yesterday's tour of the building, we did ask them a little bit about the green dragons and stuff, and it was hard to get information that we wanted without it being clear that we were asking specifically about green dragons. You wanted to kind of couch it as if it was just talking about this green dragon report. And all we learned from yesterday was not that much. It was just that Unguhef is a well-known dragon that lives somewhere in the Giftigeld forest, and his exact location is not well known, but that he destroyed a town called Shafgushel about 3 years ago for reasons that nobody really knows. It was obvious that Shafgushel angered him for some reason. And so since then he hasn't been seen or heard from, but he's probably still in charge because dragons live a long, long time. And that for that reason, the hunters of Fondirg tend to hunt in the Lannis Woods to the north rather than the Giftigeld forest to the south. But with the recent information that there are half dragons in that area, in the Lannis Woods area, it seems like maybe there's a change of location for Unguhef. Maybe he's changed location, or maybe there's another green dragon that's moved into the area. Either option is dangerous and upsetting for the people of Fondirg, and so they have to be very careful about how they talk about it. That's pretty much all you got from yesterday. So before they break the meeting, you can sense that it's wrapping up, and so you say, just before we leave, this green dragon stuff. I know you're focused on the necromancer as one of the primary concerns, but we do need to discuss the green dragon a little more. Is there a chance? Which are we leaning towards it being? Do we think that Unguhef has moved into the area, or do we think that there's some new green dragon in the area, or something else? Maybe there's something else that's creating these green dragon hybrids. And Bertrand says,
"Yeah, I was actually going to talk to the PEA about whether they know of any other information, any other ways that a green dragon hybrid can be used. I was going to take over one of the samples, one of the squirrels that you brought for us. I was going to take one over to the PEA later today and ask them about it. So much to do today.
I can do that if you want. I'm happy to talk to the PEA.
Okay, yeah. I mean, you brought them in, so you know how to handle them. Do you know where the PEA is?
You see, I actually don't. I'm pretty sure the PEA's headquarters are greenhouses, I think. Pancampwyr in Amgylshed, brackets Warriors of the Wilderness in common, are a faction that work to maintain the balance between the wilderness and civilization, speaking for the plants and beasts and geology, protecting those who traverse the wilds, aiding those who would grow crops such that they do not need to encroach on extra land, etc. This faction is made up of predominantly the following people: druids, rangers, hermits, and outlanders. The faction acts as a charity, accepting donations and offerings, while the members mainly volunteer their time and resources. So it doesn't really pay like the knights do. It doesn't pay, but it does. It does accept donations and such. Their insignia is a pendant rather than a bracer. The PEA have 3 public goals. People who know about the PEA, you would know about it. You're 54 years old, so you would know that the goals that they put out for themselves are to balance the expansion of both civilization and wilderness, conserve all natural life forms and destroy unnatural life forms, and help people survive the wilderness through education and guiding. So they have a field knight variation, which is to protect natural wildlife and seek out and destroy anything that's considered unnatural. They have a sort of education type of PEA. You can be an education route in which you guide people through. You become a personal guide to get people through the wilderness. You can educate people on different types of species and how to survive. And then there's the more administrative side, which are in charge of like maintaining plant growth on farms and things like that, so that you can double the crop without doubling the land used. Can we join more than one faction at a time? No, not really. And we stayed in one of the PEA huts a while back, yes. What was I looking up? I was looking them up to see what their place of worship is, but apparently I haven't written it down. I swear it was... There we go. Yes, got it. Yolashti is a greater goddess of the life domain whose portfolio includes plants, forests, fungi and crops. Her places of worship include forests, greenhouses and temples, which double as places of operation for the Pancampur in Emgleshed. So they use their places of operation in a town are usually either a temple that's specifically dedicated to the Knights of Kvosna, the Pancampur in Emgleshed, or it's a greenhouse on the outside of town. In this specific instance, in Fondirg, the headquarters to the PEA is a greenhouse that's on the southern side of town, just on the outskirts of the town walls, where the farmland begins. So he tells you this. He says, "This is the situation. What do you if you want to take the squirrel over to the PEA? You'll learn from them. What do you want to do?" He also mentions that he wants to at some point talk to the Arcanists Entente to see if they know anything from a magical point of view about what they could be dealing with, and whether there's any magic that can lead to half dragons. So if you want to, you could tag along, or you could go in his stead to the PEA and or the Arcanists Entente. You could speak to either or both on either. Need to find their views on the dragon, yes. Killed several of the squirrels, take one of them to the PEA. Alright, most people saying yes, let's go to the PEA. So we say, I'll go to the PEA for you. I'll take one of those squirrels over to the greenhouse in the south, and I'll let them know what they're dealing with.
Says, if you wouldn't mind, that'd be great.
And so it's decided upon. We leave the Knights of Kvosna. We head to the northern stables. We meet Joey, who's on. Would he be on? He was on guard at like 8 p.m., 7 p.m. last night. Yeah, he's probably started again. Slightly late morning. Goes through till late evening. 12-hour shifts. So by the time we get there, it's approaching noon, and Joey's on guard at the northern gates. We say, "G'day, it's Joey, right?" And he says, "Aye, it is. Apis, wasn't it?" That's right. I just come to get some of those things that I killed, the squirrels and the rats and things. He goes, yes, I'm glad you've come to collect them, because I'm still waiting on instruction as to what to actually do with them. And you say, don't worry, I've just come from the Knights and they're having a little meeting. I'm sure they'll be disseminating the information soon. But I'm just taking the one for now. Right, you are. So he helps you pick out the squirrel that is most intact after your fight with them. And you walk it back through town, stuff it in your bag in the space of the creepy doll that's now vacated some space in your bag. And you walk back through town. You go all the way down to the south end of town. By the time you get there, it's about noon, just after noon, and you are led through the now open gates to allow for farmers to come and go as they please throughout the day. And just on the outside of the southern edge of the town is where the farmland begins immediately. There is a greenhouse not too far, a walk away, maybe 5-10 minute walk. So you walk over to the greenhouse and let yourself in. And there you are greeted by some acolytes to Yolashti. Now, Yulashti is a symbol that you know because you recently encountered the elves of the Fairwoods up to the north, and the people who were in charge of those elven villages were, all to your knowledge, acolytes of Yulashti and or chattel. And so they greet you and welcome you in and ask if you're here to pray or if you're here to show fealty or to show to give donations or any of that sort of thing. And you mention that you're here to speak to the knight, the Penkempur and Amgleshid. And you are led to the back where there is a small. It's still glass. It's so you can see into it, but it's a small separate room from the rest of the greenhouse, and it acts as more of an office. And as you walk in, let's see, what's the chances? Elves around this part. Elves are actually not that uncommon around this part. So, okay. So you meet a very lithe, ageless. Impossible to tell age with elves because they don't seem to age in any notable way. A 200-year-old elf looks pretty much the same as a 400-year-old elf. So somewhere in the adult range, you see an elf. Again, they're quite androgynous and quite hard to tell gender of an elf. But this one, you would say from how she's dressed, she's probably female, or uses female pronouns perhaps. And as the acolyte knocks on the door and says, "Polython, I have a guest here to see you." "Right you are. Send them in. Please, come on in. Have a seat. What can I do for you?" "What do you want to do? What do you want to ask?" Just straight up dragon squirrel. Bam, here we go. Just slap it on the table. "What can I do for you?" Well, I have something to talk to you about on behalf of the Knights of Gavosna." And you drop the dragon squirrel on the desk. She goes, "Oh, Jay Chandras. Where was this?" "Up in the Lannis Woods." "Oh, Jay Chandras. Okay. Was it on its own?" "I'm afraid not, no. There were about half a dozen of these and 2 giant rats as well." Right. How recently?" Just last night." "Okay. And they were hungry?" I think so. They seemed to attack us and were right. So they were hostile. Right. So their motives are being driven by food, which means that they must be of mature age, but competing for resources. The Lannis Woods should be plentiful, which means that there's abundance of them, which means that their population has been displaced from something recently. What can you tell me about them? Tell me everything. What's your name? Sorry. I'm Apis, by the way. Right. Thank you, Apis, for bringing this to our attention. They breathe poison. Yes, I'm aware. How much? How did you survived this poison attack directly? Were there others of your? I'm sorry for your loss if there are. I'm sorry if I'm coming across callous. No, I thankfully I was traveling alone. Well, with my giant bee companion. I left her outside. I didn't know if she was okay in a greenhouse. A giant bee. Yes, a giant queen bee. She says, "Oh no, please bring her in, please. I haven't seen a giant bee in many a year. I'd love to meet her." Okay. You get up and put your head outside and say, "Hey, what was your name again? Sorry." "Polython." Polython says you can let my giant bee in. They open the door and Mel flies in. And she's like buzzing around. She's like a kid in a candy store with all of the flowers in this greenhouse. She's like, "Ooh, like Mel, focus this way, please." Mel.
Yes, sorry, Apis, I was getting distracted. Did you know there was a melliflora blah.
Then she gives some Latin term for some language, some flower.
"There's a type of flower over there that I haven't seen in my area since it went last 2 winters ago. It died and then it never came back the next year, and I was very disappointed because it was beautiful. It has a smell like it's got a woody kind of.
Mel, can you focus, please? I really need you.
Sorry, Apis."
And she flies into the office at the back. Polython stands and says in Sylvan, "It is a pleasure to meet you. I haven't met someone of your kind in quite some time. What do I have the pleasure of your? May I have the pleasure of your name?" And she says, someone who can speak to me. It is rare. My name is Mel. Apis calls me Mel. Yeah, Mel can speak Sylvan. We speak to her in Sylvan. And so apparently Polython can also speak Sylvan. And she says, it's a pleasure. Unfortunately, I cannot distract myself with conversation much, but I have to understand the nature of this this creature. And she points to the squirrel on the desk. And that says, "Yes, I was there for them. They are dangerous and stinky, and they make me feel bad when they breathe on me." She says, "Yes, they have." Mel is French. That is correct. Sylvan is based on French in my world, so she has a French accent when she's speaking Sylvan. I suppose everybody should have a French accent when they're speaking Sylvan, but then it'd get confusing. Yes, they speak. They breathe poison. They are poisonous creatures, as per the nature of their ancestry. Did you see anything larger than these? And you said larger than these? There were giant rats probably. And she goes, larger than that. And you say, no, I don't think so. Not in the Lannis. And she says, where not in the Lannis. Where else? And you meant no, not dragons. I'm talking about like way up to the north. There were owlbears and things. She says, no, I'm meaning dragons. Did you see anything draconic larger than a rat? No, I don't think so. No, I mean, no, I didn't. Right. You were on the path. We were on the path. Right. This could explain some of the missing people. So let me and she starts to just study this squirrel like real close. She goes quiet for a bit. Tell her that these things seem to understand Draconic. They seem to understand Draconic as well, by the way. She says, right? You speak Draconic? I do, yes. She says, right. How do you know Draconic? What do you tell her? How did you learn Draconic, do you think? I have my impression of how Apis learned Draconic, but I want to hear what you guys think. From a mechanical perspective, you know Draconic because you took dragons as your favoured enemy, and so you learn one language that your enemies speak. But how do you guys think you learned Draconic? Studied it after obsessing over the one that destroyed your village. That was my headcanon for it. Very little intelligence. I had in mind that your mum didn't teach you Draconic. She taught you Sylvan, but your mum had a fascination, an obsession almost with the Feywild, but no interest in dragons, and so your mum wouldn't speak Draconic. But your mum taught you Sylvan, being that it's the language of the Feywild, but you would have had to learn Draconic from somewhere else. I always had in mind that Apis, after losing their entire family and town to a dragon, obsessed over that dragon for the next year and taught themselves the dragon language. To know thy enemy, yes. Is Draconic a language that creatures know automatically? Well, you certainly didn't, and you don't know enough about half-dragons to know whether they would inherently know it. Alright, so we learned it after the attack on our village, but now is a different question. What do we tell her? She asks, how do we know Draconic? Are we willing to come clean about the fact that we are from Shafgush? Not come clean, it's not like it's a shameful secret. It's just that we haven't been volunteering it yet. Do we tell her that we're from Shafgushal and we learned Draconic after surviving the dragon attack? Or do we tell her, do we just be like, I was interested and so I learned it? Most people saying yes, tell her, but there's a few people saying hesitant, so we'll sort of hedge our bets in the direction of tell her. She says, how do you know Draconic? And you say, I I had reason to want to learn. One time I got relatively interested in dragons and dragonkind, and so I taught myself Draconic. I'm going to roll a deception check for Apis, not because you're lying, but because you're sort of trying to hold back a certain pieces of information. 4. Not the greatest at deception, so you're not the greatest at omitting information either. You make it clear that you are omitting information. And she, rolling on her insight check just before, works out that yes, you are trying to hold something back. And there's a moment of pause. And then she says, "You're from Shafgush, really?" And you say, "Yes. I'm so sorry for your loss." You say, "Yeah, so am I. This must be difficult for you. I'm sorry. I understand that this might be difficult for you to talk about, but I also need to know as much information as possible so that we don't have a repeat of what happened there." So when you spoke to them in Draconic, they understood it. They reacted as if they did. They didn't speak it back, but I shouted something to them in the moment. I told them to get back or run away or flee, get out of here or something, and they turned to me and seemingly reacted. She says, "That's disheartening." "Why?" "Half dragons that are born of a dragon, they don't tend to learn Draconic naturally. It's not something that comes in the by nature of them existing. It indicates that perhaps there is a dragon around, something that has taught them this language, something that they have learned through absorbing the language being spoken around them. It is indicating to me that there is a dragon, perhaps in the Lannis Woods, and that is a big problem for Fondirg." And that's where I'm going to leave it today. Thank you very much for joining me, everybody. I will see you next week.